we're going to talk about the fun stuff, and that's reporting suspicious activity. The reason we have to report suspicious activity is because of the Bank Secrecy Act. We have to follow all the same rules and regulations as all the other financial institutions. FinCEN sets a $5,000 threshold for suspicious activity. FinCEN is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. They're the ones that regulate us. They're the ones that would send in the IRS to do an audit or whatever. And they're the ones that we have to report to when we do a suspicious activity report. In the casino world, it's known as a SAR, and here we go, we're going to talk about it. That you do not have to have any money involved to file a SAR. It could just be somebody asking an odd question or something like that. But anybody in the casino who witnesses suspicious activity has to report it. That's anybody who has knowledge. Title 31 and the Bank Secrecy Act and all of that all has to do with knowledge. And if anybody in the casino, any employee, any manager, any director, anybody in the casino has knowledge that something has occurred, we have to report it. Everything should remain confidential. The people should not have fear that they're going to get in trouble for reporting something suspicious. So just make sure that everything is confidential, and the only people that should know about a suspicious activity report is the person that witnessed it and the people that they report directly to. And that should probably only be, you should have a very, very clear process for reporting suspicious activity, like who should be reported to. So in our casino right now, the person who witnesses it is the person that has to report. They should report to their supervisor, security, and or compliance directly. If it's reported to a supervisor or compliance, they can report to you, but you will still probably need to get a direct statement from the person who witnessed it. And then if it's security and surveillance, if they are the ones that witness it, they need to report directly to you as well. And then it's up to compliance to investigate and to determine if it is something that needs an official suspicious activity report reported. Not everything gets reported that gets reported to you. That's up to your casino's appetite for risk. And it's also up to you. You should have the ultimate decision, not a voting committee or anything else, because ultimately the compliance officer is responsible for that decision. So ways that people can report suspicious activity, make sure you have several avenues for people to report so it makes it easier on them. Not only does the confidentiality make it a little easier and make them more prone to report to you, but different forms, like I have a paper form that they can fill out and turn into compliance. We have a Microsoft or Google form that they can fill out and turn into compliance. We have a communications platform in our casino. I think I talked about it in another video, but they can report suspicious activity through that platform as well on a form. And all of these things go directly to compliance. Nobody else sees them but the compliance officer or a person in the office. And then there's also, they could come to the office and direct report. I'll still probably make them fill out a written statement, but they can do that. And then also there's always email. People can email compliance. We have a compliance email group that they can report to, but that just comes to us in compliance. So everything that is reported to us only comes to us. What should be on the report or the form or however you're having them report should be a really good date, time, and location. There should be very good detail of what happened. There should be a good detail of what the person looked like. If they don't know the name and the Players Club number of that person, they need to give you a really good description. Just everything that they can give you to help you investigate the activity. So, we're going to talk about some specific things that happen in the casino. Every casino probably has lots of things, and please, please comment if you have other examples of suspicious activity that's happened in your casino. Make sure also to comment where you're watching from, what kind of casino you work in, tribal or state-run casino. Even if you're watching as somebody from a bank who might want to get into the casino industry, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share our channel too so we can help build this community up. So always remember the 8 priorities, and I am going to do a video about the 8 priorities of FinCEN, but that includes fraud, corruption, drug trafficking, human trafficking, transnational crime, cybercrime, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing. I will do another video about that, so I'm not going to go into those right now. I'm going to talk about some things that we have seen in the casino I work in. I've seen it in other casinos that I've worked in, because I've worked in both tribal and state casinos. What the Bank Secrecy Act, Title 31, and all of that all started to be about was money laundering. So that's one of the main things: money laundering, terrorist financing, tax evasion. Those are things we're supposed to be watching for. I'm going to talk a little bit about money laundering, but then I'm going to give specific examples of how it occurs in the casino. But there's some stages to money laundering. Usually the main ones are the placement, layering, and integration, but some people have added some other stages to that. And you probably should add more stages to it. There's more than 3 things that happen with money laundering, but that's just the main 3 that most people talk about is the placement, layering, and integration. But there's also the pre-planning or the planning of getting the money together, or committing the illegal act that they get the money, because what money laundering is taking dirty illegal money, changing it for clean, well, in the casino, it's casino money, so it makes it look legitimate. So placement is where they're going to bring the money into the casino. Layering is where they switch out the money for our money. So they're going to put money in the slot machines, get tickets, get money for the tickets, just different ways. And we'll talk about some of those ways that they do that. And then there's integration. They take the money out, they buy cars, jewelry, houses, whatever they're going to do with it. They might even be funding a gambling habit with it. Don't think that everybody who money launders is really like a drug dealer or something like that. There's other things that can happen, and we'll talk about those too. And then there's the enjoyment. They're going to go out and enjoy and party and have fun with all the stuff that they bought with their clean money. So the number one way that I've seen that they do money laundering in a casino is at a slot machine. Because if you think about it, how does that process work? They come in, they stuff money into the slot machine. So they take their small dirty money and they put it into the slot machine, and then whatever limit you allow, or usually it's even dollar amounts, so you'll see a whole bunch of bills going in and then $1,000 tickets being cashed out. They don't usually play. They might push the button once or twice, but normally they're not playing. So they stuff the money in the slot machine, they cash out the tickets, and then they take the tickets to a kiosk, cash those tickets out. So I've seen it happen. We had 2 kids come into a casino that I worked at. They stuffed, each of them had $10,000 a piece. They stuffed that money into the slot machines. They were cashing out $1,000 tickets, taking them to the kiosk. It took them about 20 minutes to money launder $20,000. So that is something you need to watch for. You need to watch for somebody that just seems to be just putting money in but not really playing. One of the ways we caught a lady doing it is she was going around to machine, but the way we caught her is the next day we noticed on our kiosk report that we saw a whole bunch of $1,000 tickets being cashed out all at once, like within 5 minutes of each other. And then it turned out she had been doing that all day. She did about $30,000, and we sent the SAR in, and it came back that they actually did talk back to us. FinCEN did, and they told us that, yeah, they were watching that woman, and she was doing it all over the area where I was at the time. So slot bill stuffing, or whatever we want to call it, minimal play, whatever, that is something that you really need to watch, because there's no people involved with that. Usually sometimes they might have to go to the cage and cash out a ticket, but generally they can come in and never deal with an employee, because they go to a slot machine, they cash out the tickets, they go to the kiosk, and they leave. With table games, it's the same principle. They buy in for a big amount, but they might only buy in for $6,000, play $100, and then go cash the chips out. So it's the same principle of stuffing the slot machines, except there is a dealer involved, and then you also have a cage cashier involved. So they don't do it quite that often. It does happen. I've seen it happen, but because there's other people involved, you wouldn't want to come in and do that every day with the same dealer and cashier. The same with the currency exchanges. They'll bring in their dirty money. Usually it's small bills for large bills, but they'll come in and bring that money and just take it straight to the cage and exchange it. Their money for our money. So make sure if you do safekeeping and people want to put money in safekeeping, that you're keeping their exact money and giving them their exact money back. That way you're not facilitating money laundering that way. Betting both sides, like at roulette. I watched a guy do that for 3 hours. He bet 500 red and 500 black for 3 hours. You could never win on that, so I don't know exactly what was going on there. And he was buying in for cash each time. Very suspicious. Having just a large amount of cash. How many people carry cash anymore? People say that they're getting it at the nail salons, the restaurants, whatever, wherever they're getting it, but it's very unusual to carry large amounts of cash. Structuring, that is just keeping your transactions small, keeping everything below the radar. Like if you look online and you see that a CTR is at $10,000, we're going to ask for your ID and social. You're going to try to keep your money below $10,000. So if you see somebody that's staying right below a reporting limit, make sure you're seeing if there's a pattern of that, like they're doing it weekly or daily or monthly. They come in and do $9,500 transactions. That would be kind of suspicious. Another way would be chip dumping. This usually would happen in poker. So you'd go to the poker room and you would actually on purpose lose to another player. That would be a way to wash money or exchange money or money launder or whatever they're doing. That's something that should be reported. Big players that if you're in an area where there's a lot of casinos, they would be going around to several casinos and just moving money around from casino to casino if they do wire transfers. Virtual, now that we have virtual currency, some people are blending virtual and they might be betting real money and getting crypto, or vice versa, betting crypto and getting currency. I don't know how exactly that works because our casino doesn't do that, but that would be something you'd want to look into. So those are the ways that I have seen the most of. Again, in the comments, please, if you've seen other things, other ways to money launder, please make sure to tell us about it. Who money launders? This is where I get in a little conflict with Players Club and other people who don't quite understand that you don't have to be a drug dealer to be a money launderer. You don't have to be destitute to do something illegal. I had one casino where we had a bank president who was one of our best players, found out she had been embezzling from her bank. When she got pulled over by the feds, her purse was full of W-2Gs, so she could say she won all this money at the casino. She even bought a house in the state that would make her taxes cheaper on her winnings. Crazy deal. Chamber of Commerce president. I know somebody that she wasn't necessarily money laundering, but she was embezzling for her gambling habit. And then probably thinking that she would eventually pay that money back. Scholarship directors. Seen that happen. People who have access to cash, insurance agents, finance people, think about that. It doesn't have to be the poor drug dealers, human traffickers, people like that. So don't just think that our criminals, the hardened criminals, are the ones doing everything. There's some people that just have a problem. So that's all I'm going to say right now about money laundering. But again, if you can think of more things to say, please comment. So chip walking, this is a big one, and this is one that I've talked to some people at some conferences, and they say that FinCEN really is cracking down on this, and I've seen it in a lot of the reports. If you go on to the FinCEN website and see some of the fines they've issued, chip walking is usually mentioned in there. So make sure you're watching for this, and that you can see it in the reports between, if you're looking at your player ratings for table games, you'll see what they should have walked with and what they actually cashed out at the cage, at least got reported at the cage. Not always do they. If they go up and cash out little amounts at a time, it's not going to be noticed. But if you know that somebody has a large amount of chips and they only cash out a portion of those chips before they leave, could be that they're coming back later. It does not matter the reason that they're doing it. None of this matters the reason. If we have knowledge that any of these things happen, it should be reported on a suspicious activity report. And we're talking large amounts, like FinCEN sets the $5,000 threshold. You might have a little lower threshold depending on your clientele and what they do, but if somebody is doing this on a routine and there seems to be a pattern of this, please make sure you're reporting it. So watch for chip walking. That's when they leave the casino with a large portion of their chips and don't cash out. The structuring, we talked a little bit about this at money laundering, but structuring is a way to keep your transactions below those reporting thresholds, so below the CTR or even the SAR, or even if they worked in your casino and they know at $3,000 we're going to start asking some questions, or whatever your MTL limit is. I've worked at casinos where it's $1,500, $1,200. It's up to what your customers spend in your casino to what's going to be where you want to set that limit. But we all know that CTRs are over $10,000. That's just common knowledge. It's on the internet. Anybody can know that. So they're going to know. We have to get all of their ID and social and everything at that. So they might try, like I said, come in and just do like $9,500 a day. That's where the game day hours come in handy. If the guest knows what the game day hours are, that's why we're never supposed to tell them. They can structure their transactions over those game day hours. Going from shift to shift, table to table, cashier to cashier. I actually watched a guy go down the line of cashiers. We had 4 at one of my casinos. All their windows were open, and he actually went and did $3,000 at each of the 4 cashiers. Unbelievable. Coming in on the different game days and knowing what the hours are so they can structure over those game days. Jackpot seat swaps. These are the bane of our existence. They get reported every day. Doesn't matter. Some casinos, it's up to the risk of the casino. I'm not telling you what to do. I am not a lawyer. I am not a FinCEN person. I am just a person who works in a casino. But some casinos do have a tolerance for risk for this. Like if it's a married couple that's proven they're married, or if it's friends playing together, everybody's pushing the button. If it's under $5,000, you don't report it. There's just certain, you need to decide what your casino is willing to do. But if a person, whoever presses the button and wins the jackpot, has to be the person that collects the jackpot. So that person has to collect the winnings. If they get up and let somebody else try to collect it, then it needs to be reported to a slot attendant, first of all, so the correct person gets paid. But also it needs to be reported as suspicious activity. You as the compliance officer have the discretion of what you report or not to FinCEN. but everybody should be reporting those to you right now until FinCEN gets it in their head that that's not how they're going to catch the bad guys. But some people think, and it's just like everything else, it doesn't matter why they're doing it. Some people might be on Social Security and can't collect the money. Some people might think there's a deadbeat dad law, and there are states that can collect the winnings from people, but a lot of tribal casinos, you don't do that. And we don't check for warrants, and some people think that if they have a warrant out that we're going to check that. I had a guy at a casino who actually switched seats, and when we said he needed to claim it, he went out to his car and actually switched seats with his buddy because he had a warrant out for his arrest. We wouldn't have even looked into him had he just handed over his ID and collected his jackpot. So weird people do weird things, but make sure you're reporting your jackpots, heat swaps. Agent activity, that's where you're sharing money, you're sharing chips and tickets. I've actually seen people pay people right in front of the cage to get them to cash out their chips and tickets for them because they didn't want. Some people think we're going to make them pay taxes on their tickets. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. It doesn't matter what the reason is. If they're sharing a bankroll, sharing chips, sharing tickets, that should be reported. And I'm talking large amounts. I'm not going to send FinCEN a thing if a husband hands his wife a $100 chip to play with. Not what I'm talking about, and I think you all know that. But there is something called proxy betting. That's where it just seems like somebody is directing a person at table games of how to bet. So make sure you're reporting that if you see that happen. Using others' accounts, it's called Flying Monkey, and I just learned about it at the conference this last year. But using other accounts, it's to get money across the country or country to country, things like that. So something you should be watching for. Something you really need to remember, it's everybody's responsibility. It doesn't matter where you work, what department you're in, what position you're in. We all have to watch for suspicious activity. It all has to be reported. It's all about knowledge. You have to know about it, of course, to report it. But if you know about it, you have to report it. Everything should be confidential. Nobody should be scared of reporting anything. There should be steps in place of how to report and who to report to. Make sure that this is a policy that's written and that is practiced. Have several different ways to report, so make sure they have several avenues to do that to make it easier on everybody. And also, because it is a 24/7 business, and let's face it, compliance doesn't always work 24/7. Some casinos do have enough people to do that, some do not. Not reporting suspicious activity can lead to fines and legal actions against the casino, but more importantly, against the individual. That's why it's important that you get your people to understand that they can personally get held liable for not reporting suspicious activity. So I hope you guys learned something from all of this. I hope that it helped some people. If it didn't, I'm sorry. I'm just giving basic information. I'm not going too deep into it, but please leave comments below if you have questions. Please tell us where you're coming from. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so we can build this thing up. And I know I said a lot and I'm not very exciting. I'm kind of boring, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and let's keep this together, build this community up, because we don't need to be doing this alone.